All right, man. This is either going to be a wonderful, wonderful thing or a big freaking mess. But we're going to give it a shot. Uh, for those who don't know, my name is Armand Rosamilia. I'm an author. I write a bunch of stuff, and I'm here today with.
This is J.C. Walsh, also an author of Cosmic Horror.
So this is kind of a we're gonna have fun with this. I had my wife was away for work, so whenever she goes away, I always watch a ton of bad documentaries. And for whatever reason, popped up a a movie, and I watched it, and it had a lighthouse in it, and then it suggests like Netflix suggests other movies. So I watched another movie with lighthouses, and then I was like, oh, let me see what other movies with lighthouses. So I ended up watching four of them, and as I'm doing this between them, you and I always talk. And I texted you and said I'm watching these, and a couple of them you had seen already. And then I was like, let's watch all four of these and just kind of talk about it because I know you and I will have a very slightly different perspective on these. You are way more into horror movies, and you go like you dig deep into horror movies and stuff. And I haven't really watched too many horror movies in like the last say 30 years, so it will be interesting. But before we get to that, we are drinking tonight.
Cheers.
So what do you got there?
I got a mint chocolate cookie stout from 8 and Sand, Jersey Brewery. Oop, where's the camera? There it is.
Nice.
Yeah, very good stuff. Very high in content, so we'll be drinking it very, very slow-ish.
I am drinking a mix. So I have, you see that? I have it's almost gone now, a bottle of Calumet bourbon whiskey. Buddy of mine got this for me. It is delicious. And I add sweet peach tea. I add peach sweet tea to it and peach schnapps to it. And it tastes delicious, and I could drink a bunch. So normally I'll do a giant mug. I'll do like one of those plastic, 32 ounce things or so. But I'm going to be nice. I'm going to drink one of these, although I do have them near me. So if this lasts longer than like 10 minutes, I'll fill up again.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. So what movie do you want to, what do you want to start with? I'll let you pick the movie to start with.
Oh, man. You know what? Let's just go right into, I think the first one we started talking about, Cold Skin.
Cold Skin. Okay.
Yeah.
So I had no idea what this movie was about. It popped up, and I think I watched it on. I think I watched all of them on Netflix, or I don't know. At one point, I was just talking into the microphone and for the next movie, but I like that little Netflix preview. At first, I was like, "Well, I'm not going to watch this." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? It looks kind of weird." So I decided to watch it. I'm glad I watched that one first, as a matter of fact, because it had a cool line as the so basically there's certain things that all of these movies have, but they always start with somebody going to the island, this little piece of rock with a lighthouse on it, more or less. And the line that I really liked is the captain of the boat says to him, what are you running away from? And I thought that was an interesting line because that's pretty much what these movies are. It's like everybody has a secret. Everybody's going to these islands, and it's even though we watched four different movies. Did you notice that every one of them had somebody named Tom?
Yep.
And then I think,
sorry.
And I think in one of them, both guys were named Tom. Mm-hmm. There was a Thomas and a Tom. I thought that was kind of weird. So what's your take on this movie?
I remember seeing the previews and I was like, "Oh, whoa, what is going on here? This looks very Lovecraftian."
Yeah.
And so when I, not just Lovecraftian, but also kind of like Monster Siege, creature flick. So I was like, okay, cool. Let's see where this goes and whatnot. And yeah, I noticed the similar themes, like with like that, somebody's just trying to escape, they're trying to find themselves, and they definitely get more than they bargained for, especially with this guy being a meteorologist and he's like shooting creatures off of a lighthouse. I did not expect the action to kick in like the first 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it steadily it stayed very steady with the action, and it kept enough in there for character development and story, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, I like how it really, it's like literally like the first night he's on the island, stuff starts happening.
Yeah.
There's no when you see it and the cinematography and all that other fancy stuff, you think, okay, this is going to be one of these slow build movies. You're going to get like 45 minutes into it until you start getting some action. No, like you said, like the first 15 minutes, you either love it or you hate it. You're involved in this movie of what's going on.
Yeah, and that hit me right in the. I love that type of stuff. Like I love build, but I also love like when it just kicks in like that. And then you get to see the character named Friend, the meteorologist, get to go through these changes. He's trying to kind of prove himself to the main caretaker, and try to fight this fear, and then all these monsters. And then you got like you get to see how this affected the guy who's been there for so long,
right?
Dealing, with that isolation and then these things.
Yeah, so, and I think I think in this movie, I think at one point you see a tentacle, and I know in one of these I see a tentacle. I immediately thought of you. I was like, oh, JC's gonna like this just because. And there's a lot of that Lovecraft in all four of these movies. They're all 1915, movies. So they are really, I thought interesting because while all four movies are shot differently, you could almost argue that they took the same script for the most part, added a character named Tom, and they shot. You gave it to four different directors. It was almost like an anthology, and I enjoyed watching them back to back like that because it was really different, and then there was enough differences in those. I thought that was pretty cool. Are we going to do spoilers here, or are we keeping this spoiler free?
I'm trying my best to keep it spoiler free, but if it goes with our themes, if we want to spill a little bit, yeah. I was writing my notes. I was like, do I really want to say that? And
right. Well, that's what I'm trying to think. Cause I think like an overview is in a couple of these there are mermaids.
Yep.
And there's some really creepy scenes with dudes on an island and chicks in the water and what they want to do with them and stuff. And it was in more than one movie that we're talking about tonight, which I thought was kind of weird. It was one of the, for me, I was like, you look away, but you don't look away. And it was, I don't know, there was some really odd scenes in some of these movies like that.
Yeah, especially one showed a little more than the other. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But based on that movie, I know we'll get to that. I wasn't too surprised, but still, it's like two of them were definitely similar with the human male and then the female fish species humanoid,
right,
mermaid.
Yeah, and I thought it was I love the pacing of Cold Skin. I thought all the way to the end because you don't really. I guess in one way you see the end coming, but in the other way you're the way they get there. I think surprised me a little bit. Let's just say.
Yeah, this is one I don't want to spoil, but I think the scene when they're trying to make peace with the species,
right?
And then the older guy, Grunner, he completely obliterates that with a flare gun. That's all I'm going to say. That scene was very disturbing, and I saw it coming, but it still got you.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not good. And that was very well done. How it just solidates that that atmosphere and what happens what happened to him on this island.
Yeah. I liked it. I thought it was bleak, and very, again, it's very Lovecraftian. a lot of the parts and everything. So I enjoyed it. I guess we'll give ratings at the end, or we'll put them in order of the way we liked them. So the next one we watched was that I watched was The Vanishing.
Yep.
With Gerard Butler. And at first I was like, and I've seen him in a couple of things, but as he's getting older, some of them are hit and miss, some of them are kind of hokey. But this again is another one where it's like, so I think the first one was a year. They were supposed to be in Cold Skin. They were on the island at the Lighthouse for a year, and then I believe in this one it was like, I want to say 3 months, something like that.
It was only a week. It was only a week. Yeah.
Okay, so I knew, like, it's funny, is all 4 movies they're on the island for a different amount of time. Yeah. So, and again, it wasn't a Lovecraftian movie. It was a character movie. It was these 3 vastly different people, basically trying to kind of just go through the motions of what they think on this island and run the lighthouse. And again, it's another one where the veteran guy is immediately the one that's, the lighthouse is mine. Yeah. I'm gonna do this, and then you guys do all the grunt work and all the other stuff. So what was your take on it?
Yeah, definitely that. I noticed that with each one, with I call it the generational type of thing, that pass the torch, and I'm going to teach you why I know I'm the keeper. And this was interesting because you had three generations in a sense. Yeah. You had Gerard Butler's character who looked up to him, and then he was kind of like molding the new kid. And with that one, the human aspect, the human horror in that one's really good. It had a survivalist horror, yeah, mixed with almost kind of like the home invasion feel type of thing, and then that feeds right into like more the paranoia, the greed. And I also kind of like too that it was based on an actual missing persons case.
Right.
I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So I guess the main thing, which I think they show you in the previews, is more or less these 3 guys are just kind of, like I said, they're kind of going through the motion. They're filling each other out. They're really in different points in their lives and everything, and then they find a boat shipwrecked, a body down the cliff, and a chest. And so the youngest guy goes down, and chaos ensues, and they have this chest, and they know somebody's. Well, I think the older one knows somebody's coming for this. Somebody's going to come and try to find this, and it's interesting. I really love the action scenes when basically the island's more or less invaded, and you have this like, it's a prolonged fight of all these people, and it's brutal the way they do it all. And I thought it was interesting the way that it was so chaotic.
Yeah, I enjoy that too. That was that's where I like that survivalist horror, and then what humans do to each other, and then they really built it too, because like that moment where they're like, the ship's coming back and they're trying to figure out what to do, and then if they're going to try to psych them out or whatnot, and then how far will you go type of aspect, and then it's really neat too, because the movie almost had like 3 parts to it. When that stuff was over, you start seeing the decline of each character. Mm-hmm. I also like that the older gentleman, I think his name was Tom, and you can see he definitely has kind of backstory where he's like you said, he knew they were coming back, so he definitely was involved with something in his life that he knows these type of people in some way. You can see that type of leadership he took on that. He's like, you gotta trust me. We gotta work through this. Right.
And I thought the way they turn on each other, it's the greed, it's what they want in their lives and everything else. I thought it was interesting. It was, when you look at this and you go, at first I watched the first movie with 2 characters, and I'm like, all right, why are there 3 on? Because as a writer, you don't ever want to waste a character, and you always go, well, these 2 characters could have been this character. But I think in this movie it worked really well that it was 3 guys of different age and different attitudes and everything. And what'd you think of the ending?
The ending was good. It was sad. I felt really it was very tragic. And they don't give much explanation. You got to really dig into the case and the speculation, because a lot of it is based on speculation.
Right.
And it seemed like it's really told through Thomas's story, because
Yeah.
they found his journals, his log, and he was concerned, his concerns, what happened, and it doesn't say anything about the people attacking, but more about their paranoia and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. They still were able to put the story through his eyes and kind of do this cold case, compile fiction of what could have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I liked it at first. When I watched it, I was like, did I like that? Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Was but then you start kind of putting it together with everything, because I did take a break between movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I did other things, and for all four of these movies, good or bad, it was in my head, until I watched the next one.
I think that helps too, is like each one has that similar theme. It brings you back to the other ones too. You're like, oh, okay, I can compare and contrast to that.
Yeah.
And that helps. Like, you take a couple of days off and you get back to it. Like, oh, I haven't left these movies at all.
Yeah, I ended up watching all four of them in a row in one day. I ran right through them, because I was like, now I want to see what the next one, because then I want to compare and contrast to the previous movies. So then I watched The Lighthouse.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the I guess the 2018 version.
Yeah.
First. So this was another one where it's guys going to the lighthouse, and there's backstory there. There's people kind of trying to escape their lives, and of course you have the veteran, the older one, is automatically, the lighthouse is mine, and you can do the grunt work type of stuff. So it was very similar. I forget how long they were supposed to be. I think it was like 3 months or 4 months, something like that. And then, of course, a storm comes and keeps them for longer, which is also a theme on these, where there's always seems to be a storm on these movies, and then they don't get taken off the island when they think they're going to.
Yeah, and that storm, I was thinking too. I'm like, okay, this was considered a horror movie, so I want to see why. And I think that storm was like the main catalyst, which usually all of them are, but this one really focused on the storm isolating them. And then this one seems, I don't want to say more realistic, it was definitely more based on, it talked a lot more about the lighthouse. It showed a lot more of the working gears of the lighthouse, and even the meaning behind the lighthouse, being the guide in the darkness. I thought that was cool when the older lighthouse keeper went into that rant. He said, "We gotta keep everybody safe." Right. And then how he's like generations of family that took care of this job. It's a job to him. I also thought it was kind of neat where, like, the younger guy, it's always, again, it's like that generational, the younger guy in all of these are kind of like kind of problematic to them, but also kind of like different, and they kind of bang heads a little bit.
Yeah.
He was the more religious one. I found that to be kind of interesting, and how they played off that. And the older man was not. He was kind of crushed with his faith, and he was more to see as God. And then we got this younger gentleman, he's constantly reading his Bible and trying to keep to his prayers and stuff.
Yeah, and I liked how they bumped heads over religion, too, because the younger guy, you say grace before you eat. But he was kind of demeaning about it. He was kind of looking down at the other, at the other, and the other guy was basically like, I could care less. This, I don't have this in my life. And I like how they, not necessarily, neither of them saw the other side, maybe, but they kind of came to some understandings about it in a couple of spots throughout the movie, and I thought that was good. It wasn't all just doom and gloom. And again, this is one of those movies, though, that that storm was definitely that other character in this one. It definitely helped, and there was some creepy. I mean, there was a lot of creepy stuff. The noises and the constant banging on the door was, like that. The Telltale Heart from Edgar Allan Poe type of thing. Yep. Where it's just it's driving this guy mad. It's completely driving him crazy. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, the gothic and the atmospheric overtones when he was just being driven mad was really cool. It was like, and the whole movie was very slow. That's the slowest one of the whole group.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
not in a bad way. It's just the way the story was told, because you had that bond between these two guys where they butt heads, but there was a really like very respectful like friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And then when all that crazy stuff happens, and then everything was just like you said, Edgar Allan Poe. What was I right out that? Oh, I had a Dante's Inferno feeling to it too.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because he was like he felt like he was stuck in his own personal hell, and it's not flames, it's water.
Right.
And then just like you said, the noises and that tapping on the window, that whole thing.
Yeah.
they kept doing that. And you're just like, oh my god.
Well, because I'm getting uncomfortable because that was a long scene.
Yeah.
And it was just a constant noise of that, and you're watching it, and you're like, all right, I get it, enough. But then you start to go, okay, I understand why he's going crazy here.
Yeah, definitely. And it just kept pushing and pushing, and then his hallucinations that went with his character and his core beliefs, and there was some moments like it really was turning. It was kind of like tricking you a little bit, when he thought he was dead or whatnot.
Yeah,
stuff like that. So yeah, and then again, and then like I said, with the storm and a lot of cinematography on that, it was beautifully dark and beautifully done.
Yeah. Yeah, and on all of these movies, there's a lot of color washed from them.
Yep.
There was, the first three are in color technically, but it's a lot of, it wasn't bright blue, pretty seas. It was really gray, stormy, white-capped seas. The lighthouses are old and dirty. The insides are dark. Everything is made of really dark, teak or whatever wood they were using. So it's, it was always cloudy. It was always overcast. So all four of these movies were very interesting that way. And then, of course, the last movie we watched, also called The Lighthouse, made about a year later.
Mm-hmm.
And this one was interesting because, again, I watched it because I was like, well, I'm watching Lighthouse movies. And by that point, I had found an article that said, Lighthouse movies. And somebody said it was like their number one movie on this list. And they said, well, we haven't even seen it, just based on the trailer. This has got to be a great movie. So I was like, all right, well, let's see. And it's funny because about halfway through the movie, and all I did was just put it on and just started watching it. I'm like, wait a minute, who are these two guys? And I realized it's Willem Dafoe and it's
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson from Twilight.
Yeah.
And I thought they were great because you didn't realize it was them. In this movie, I had to put the subtitles on about 5 minutes into it because this is shot in black and white. It is an old movie, so it's shot kind of like those. What's the old? I don't know if it's Call of Cthulhu, one of those really old Lovecraft movies that was shot back in the day with the black and white and everything. And that's what it was. It was a movie that's very Lovecrafty, and this might have been the one that had you saw a tentacle in. And again, you have sex with a mermaid. You have really weird stuff. They masturbated a lot in this movie. A lot of really weird things. But I thought I couldn't understand either of them, whatever the hell they were saying half the time when they were talking, even with subtitles. I was trying to follow along because it's very, very old English. But I thought they were great in those roles. Again, Willem Dafoe plays the older guy who, that's his lighthouse. He's the light keeper, and you're not even allowed up there. You're not even allowed to go near the light. And the other guy is the younger guy. And of course, everybody has their secrets. And everybody is, it's that isolation. Like, you're in all four of these movies, you're taking people that probably shouldn't be isolated on an island with another person. And that's what you did.
Yeah, they were great. Pattinson and Dafoe, and they were definitely the most deprived characters out of all four films. They were just they reached that point of insanity, and they went for it. Like, they just You got the head guy trying to take control, and the younger guy constantly fight with them, and it was like screw you, you're a terrible boss, or you can't tell what to do. I'm not your dog, and it was just and then in the constant lore, like there's Lovecraft lore, there's Greek mythology, there's the old sea type of mythology to it. The combination was so well done. It wasn't like it didn't feel like it was like trying to mismatch ideas. It just flowed right in, like because all the Lovecraftian stuff was more like visions and insanity. Mm-hmm. I think the Greek mythology came out of like mostly William Dafoe's mouth.
Yeah.
And then that one-eyed seagull.
Yeah, this is another movie where there's a lot of, you're looking at a lot of symbolism, a lot of different things when you're watching this. Like the seagull is a perfect example, and the lighthouse itself is that forbidden place for a lot of these because most of these people are not allowed up in the lighthouse. You have to earn that over weeks and weeks and seasons of being there and stuff. Throughout all these movies, a lot of drinking, a lot of passing the time drinking, a lot of singing. They get a little weird with the dancing, especially in this movie. There's a lot of really, weird stories and all that as you're watching, you're like, okay, is this part of the movie? Is this just filler? What's going on here? And then you realize when you get to the end that it really defined Willem Dafoe's character in this, and it was definitely an interesting movie, but I don't think I could have watched it without the subtitles.
Yeah, and they're good. Those directors are really good with. I think they did The Witch, so they did Old English with The Witch as well, and then so that Old English is pretty. I didn't do the subtitles. I don't know why I didn't. I followed the best I could. I will be watching again. I didn't enjoy it that much. I will be watching again.
Watch with the subtitles.
Watch your subtitles. Some of those like rants are really great. I want to understand a little more, and catch themes I didn't see before because there's so much happening.
Yeah.
Because this one had a slow burn feel, but there was so much weirdness to it. You're just like, well, what the heck? It just comes out of nowhere.
Well, in this one, both characters are erratic.
Yep.
So it's not like the other three. You had that one main character who was, you knew something was wrong in his head, kind of thing, and that helped propel the plot along. In this one, it is two guys that are, again, the storm comes, they're trapped on the island longer than they should be. They're basically just drinking and telling stories and fighting with each other and knocking each other around, and just a lot of really crazy stuff is going on in this one. And I mean, it was definitely interesting. I thought it was for what it was. Yeah, and it probably is something that, like you see, you have to go back and watch again.
Yeah, and that without saying much, that ending that was perfect. Pro Lovecraft type of ending.
Yeah.
To me, and then not just like how it happened, but like what led to it when there's that revelation of the lighthouse. And one thing I noticed, that staircase, when it spirals down, looks like a tentacle. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go back to what you said earlier about why, because I did a little research each one, their backstories or whatever, and where they pulled some old stuff, and with the Vanishing, one of the reasons why they started doing 3 people is because of what happened to the gentleman in the 2018 Lighthouse, the real story. Mm-hmm. Because they couldn't do 2 anymore because they would just go crazy. They didn't have somebody to help, like, I guess, be backup. They need that one extra person, so it ended up becoming 3 people per lighthouse after a lot of those incidents like that happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting because I thought the same thing. I'm like, why 3 people? And then when we look at both Lighthouse movies, which actually the 2019 is loosely based on the same incident as the 2018. So it's just all Thomases. Both guys are both named Thomas.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, that is so crazy. And then of course, you're like, you're being a writer and a horror writer. The crazy surrealism, and you're like, is he fighting himself?
Yeah. It definitely all 4 of these movies were interesting. And again, I come from not having watched too many horror movies over the last. I mean, occasionally here and there. Most of the time, I'm not a fan. Most of the time, it's slasher. It's it's all this. But what I liked about these, it was kind of that slow burn in the beginning, except for maybe Cold Skin. But the pacing I thought was great. There wasn't gratuitous violence. There wasn't ripping people apart. There wasn't giant, claw and teeth monsters coming from the sea and graphically ripping people. No, there was none of that, and I liked that. I liked that it was still some horror movies, but not crazy. For me, they were more old school, and I think that's why I definitely enjoyed all four more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah, that's what works with them. Like you said, they got that old school quality, and there's a lot of them like that, thankfully. And I'm a gorehound. I love all the crazy stuff, but when you get in that storytelling mode and you're really happy, I was really happy with even the William Dafoe one, how crazy it was. They still, they didn't hit you over the head constantly, all the vulgar stuff. They only picked certain parts to go with the story, and then how these two went crazy. And then even Cold Skin was a lot of action, but it wasn't extreme to the point of you're like, okay, that's a little too much. So yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that.
So if you had to pick one of these movies that was your favorite of the four, what would you pick?
I almost went Cold Skin. It was Cold Skin and Lighthouse 2019, like this, and I went Lighthouse. That ending did it for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, did it for me.
So actually, Cold Skin I think was my favorite because I liked the creatures. I liked the battle scenes. I thought that really pushed it over, and the ending, I thought the ending on that was great. Which we're not going to spoil, but watch it from the beginning of the movie, and then you watch that ending, and you go, "Oh, perfect!" I mean, to me that just fit perfectly. So that was, and again, I liked all four movies, but I thought that was my favorite. So out of the four, what would be your least favorite?
That was, I almost went. I originally was going to do the 2016 Lighthouse on the bottom, but I think I'm going to put the Vanishing on the bottom, only because of the gothic overtones of near the end of the Lighthouse 2018 film. I think that won it over for me. I think that build up. Although again, that's another one that was back and forth because I really love the human aspect of both of them, but definitely the relationship of the three guys in the Vanishing, and just the tragedy of it. But something with that old school atmosphere that happened, like you say, with the noises and stuff, that was just it really held on to you.
So I think that's why the 2019 Lighthouse I think is the worst one for me, because I had to watch it, because I spent so much time watching it with subtitles, and because both characters were just so friggin' crazy. At some point, I remember probably about 40 minutes into the movie, actually shutting it off or pausing it and going to get something to eat or whatever. And it's like I needed a break. It just gets to that point where it's just so manic. 1 second they're throwing each other against the wall, and then the scene cuts to them drinking, and then there's this big soliloquy that you can't understand. I mean, both actors were brilliant in it. I never saw Twilight or any of those, and I always blew that guy off. I'm like, well, what? Anything I've ever seen, clips and whatever, I'm like, well, this is awful. But he really owned that character. Like, he is. If you looked at him with that little stupid mustache and everything, you would not even think it was the same person. So I thought the acting wise and all that was great. It just was. I think it was just too much. You know what I mean? It was like they rolled too much into that one, and the pacing was just so over the top for me.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, definitely.
Now again, I like the other two. I would pick The Vanishing as my second favorite because I like the three of them, and I think when Gerard Butler's character loses it, I mean, he loses it. And I love that. I love that because it was a believable thing, and I loved the tension. I loved all of that. It's not a supernatural movie. It's just like you said. It's a great survival movie, and everybody had their own angle, their own approach, and because of their age, because of their history and everything else. And I just thought it worked well.
Yeah, I always, now when I think of that movie, I'm always going to see Gerard Butler just sitting there with that look on his face. He's just like, oh my God, that dude's going to blow up. He's a big dude.
Yeah. But it was definitely interesting. So I let me see if we went through. So there was, my notes were lots of Toms, lots of sex with mermaids, lots of drinking and singing, and whoever runs the lighthouse is a jerk.
I almost had something like that. No, this is all mine. I went crazy. All these
wow.
two sides.
Wow.
I went bullet points, and I was like, all right. And then I was just like, when we talk, I was like, all right, we'll see, because I could talk forever, you know that, and I didn't want to drag them out. But once I figured out the main points, it's like, okay. But yeah, I was like going to town.
That's funny.
It's fun. It's really fun. I love this stuff.
So, which of these 4 movies had you watched before already when we brought this up to do this?
I think only Cold Skin. So I've been watching along the week. Yep.
Oh, good.
I watched the Lighthouse movies back to back, which I think was a good idea to do.
Yeah, that's what I did, and I like that. And not doing any, because me, I don't do any research on anything because I'm lazy. So not doing any of that research of whether it was a true story or not, or I think it says it in the beginning of the. But
I believe that.
Yeah, well, and that's what it is. It's Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on a true story, but it's Ed Gein. It's 47 movies are based on a true story of that one. It has nothing really to do with it. So I never really take stock in that, but I didn't do any of the research, but also I knew JC's definitely going to do some research on this.
I had to. I was like so sucked in to those characters. Like, I gotta see, I want to know more about them, and how they even come up with this. And anytime they do a movie about people who are completely gone, you want to know how they come up with their and it was an ongoing case for like 20, 30 years, and then of course, the way we are today, we're always going to be fascinated with that stuff, no matter, hello. So, and then same thing with, I thought the Lighthouse 2018 was based on the same thing, just missing one guy, but 2 completely different true stories, 2 completely different islands. One, the Vanishing was a Scottish island, and 2018 Lighthouse was Irish Sea.
Yeah. So, it definitely was. There definitely were interesting. I think afterwards, I even saw something, and it just completely different thing. You're not even looking. That some of those I think I want to say, I might be wrong. I want to say the British lighthouses were still manned up until like 1980 or something.
Yep.
Crazy like that. Like you look at these, you go, these are like 1915, 1920s. They're all set back then. And then you go, this is 100 years or more that people were doing it with this, which is interesting.
I'll be curious to see, look back at my hometown, Rhode Island, and because I know we got a few lighthouses, and learn a little more of that history. Now I'm even more I've been interested, but this kind of woke that back up, and especially. The Lighthouse 2019 was a New England coast. Yeah. Of course, that's New England. There's tentacles in New England.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Well, Rhode Island is about 2 miles square, so it has like probably 12 lighthouses and 550 Dunkin' Donuts in those 2 miles. So,
yep,
all good stuff. Well, I had fun, JC. I like doing this.
Me too.
We need to. So I guess we need to pick another theme.
Yep.
Although I know there was another Lighthouse movie that was on that list, and I was like, that looks a little bit too horror for me, and you were like, yeah, we're not gonna do that one.
Oh, The Fog, right?
No. I've originally I was gonna watch, because I didn't realize they had remade The Fog, which I don't know why you would do that, because the original with Adrienne Barbeau is such
amazing.
A great movie. But I was like, all right, 4 is enough. We'll watch these 4 and do it. I figured there was another movie that supposedly had a lighthouse in it on that list that I had sent you.
Darkness. That's based on the Tooth Fairy fable. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, that looked a little bit too horror for me. Yeah.
I haven't seen that in years. It was okay. It was decent, but I don't think that wouldn't go with this theme either.
Yeah. These 4 movies fit perfect together.
Right. And even The Fog was like not even a straight up Lighthouse movie. It's just now it's interesting. There's Lighthouse in that movie, was kind of a savior for the town because of the DJ in there. She was trying to help everybody. That metaphor was kind of cool. But that's really it.
Yeah, but it wasn't specifically about the Lighthouse.
Right.
These 4 movies, like I said, it was almost like they took one script, one outline, and they said, "Here, you four writers, write this movie however you want, and then you 4 guys direct it however you want." And there's 4 totally different movies, with a lot of similarities. I mean, a lot of, and I thought a lot of good similarities. So
yeah, I agree.
All right, man. Well, you know what? Maybe people will actually watch this thing, and then we'll and maybe offer us some suggestions for other movies that might tie in together somehow.
Yep.
And then we'll do this again because I had a lot of fun. I'm almost out of my drink, which is good. All right, JC, where can people find you out there?
You can find me on Twitter, JCW Horror Writer, I believe. You just find me on Twitter. You look me up at Twitter and Instagram. Those are my 2 main ones. I'm active mostly with like social media and my books and all that. And Amazon, of course.
Cool. You can find me at Armand Author on Twitter and ArmandRosamilia.com, and I'm everywhere else. And I guess this will be on my YouTube, so you can find me right here if you're watching this. All right, man. We will definitely do this again. Have a good one.
Cheers, you too.